We are up to now Perek HaSeiches Umnin. We finished with Ezeh Neshech, and we're actually up to Ayin Keo Beis. We're going to start learning the laws of employer-employee relationship and their obligations, and whether one can quit in the middle of their job, and so on and so forth. There are two kinds of employees. One is known as a schir yom, you're paying by the daily wage, and one is known as a kablan. You're paying for the piece, for the job.
Casual or a contractor?
Yeah, but like casual, you can pay him, you can work for you full time, but you pay like a normal way, like we do. A normal employee is so when we say the word poil means a schir yom. You pay him a daily wage. When we say the word umnin, it could be either poil, it could either be a contractor, or it could be a daily person, a person who works for you on a daily wage. A poil can walk out of the job whenever he wants. He's not your slave. He can always walk out, which is the Havdil negotiable laws as well. You can you can't force me to work. I can protest. I can do whatever I want. And but a kablan, that many say he cannot walk out in the middle. Once you took on the job, you have a commitment, and you have to go on. And even an employee, there's a whole machlekes if you actually made a kinyan or a contract, whether you can walk out or not. So let's start the Mishnah. The Mishnah is a number of clauses. Number one, you hired a worker, and it could be either worker. The hitu and they deceived one another. Now, who exactly deceived? What happened? The Gemara will discuss. Was it employer, employee versus employee? Let's see. The only thing they can have is recriminations, but nothing more than that. So we'll have to see what exactly the case is. Next. Socher is a chamor is a kador. You hired a chamor, somebody who to freight your, product, or a kador. Most of the Shainim say it's a karor, somebody who has a wagon hitched to the back of his horse, and he freights not through a donkey, but he freights bigger quantities. Lahavi, and you hired him for a job. And you want him to bring the parts that you want to use to build a chuppah, because you have a wedding coming up, or chalilim, or you need the flutes, the musical instruments. So here we're now talking about a dover ha'ovid. You're causing me a loss. If you don't go ahead and do the job, you cause me a loss. But here there's not a financial loss. Here there's a loss, that an event that unfortunately there's no music, or something to that effect. Or you hired workers to take out the flax from the water that it's soaking in to separate and all that. And if it stays too long, it gets ruined. Here we're talking about a monetary loss. If a whole dovish or anything else that causes a loss, the chazru behen, and they change their mind in the middle of the day, stop working, is mokum she'ein sham odom, if there's no way to find a replacement, is seicher alehen, you go ahead and you hire other workers, pay more than the going price, and they have to supplement, as we'll see more what happens there. Or you could trick them. As we'll see more later, you could tell them, okay, you know what, I'll pay more than we initially agreed. They finish the job, and then you only pay them what you initially agreed. Is deception. In this case, they did the wrong thing to you. You're permitted to do that. Okay. Case number 3. You hired workers, and they changed their mind. We're talking about a kablan, as Rashi says, according to Moshe Shei, we're talking about a kablan, a contractor. The chazr behen, and they change their mind in the middle of the job. They're always worse off. As we'll see more later, what exactly means that they're worse off. For example, like this: if they walk out, and in order for you to find someone to finish the job, you have to pay more. Let's say they did a half a day's work. To find people to finish the job, to complete the job, it's more than a half a day's pay. You got to pay more than half a day. You can pay, and you take it off from them. And you take it off from them. But if, let's say, the balance of the day actually costs less, you promised them $100, and they worked a half a day, $50, but then the balance, suddenly the price came down, you can get something for $25. Nevertheless, you give them what's it? In that case, you give them the $50 you made up, because it didn't cause you any loss. It didn't cause any loss. Yeah. Now, because that, because they can argue, you promised $100 for the job. It'll only cost you $25 to finish the job. Give us $75. That they can't. They'll only get the $50 they're entitled to, and that's it. Says more further. The Balabai changes his mind, and he is the one who loses out. So, for example, if the price of labor went down, he cannot say to them, well, I only owe you, I said 100, but now labor suddenly is only 50 for the whole day's job. He did half a day, I'll give you 25. No, he has to give them exactly what he made up with them. Exactly what he made up with them. There's another opinion that says you actually give them that which we said before you can't do. In this case, you do. For example, he charged them, he said, I'll give you $100 a day. They worked half a day, and the balance is only $25. That may be you should give him 75. Some of the Rishonim hold that way. Other Rishonim say, even though he did the wrong thing, why should he pay them more than we made up? $100 a full day means $50 a half a day. Why should he give them the 75? Others argue, no, you have to.
They would have made 100.
They can get other. Oh, so others argue the reason why you have to give them 75 is because now if they're going to work the rest of the day, they're only going to get $25. So they lost out by working for you. Otherwise, even though it's not a nice thing you did, they can have kindness, but it's not a financial claim. But this, they argue financial claims. The rule is whoever changes the hand in the bottom, and the Gemara says there's a new case where I asked you to pay me to do black dye, you made a red dye, or vice versa, and then the dinner you pay whatever the lesser amount of the expense versus the benefit. If the benefit is less, you pay the benefit. If the expense is less, you pay the expense. We had this above a comment at the end. Whoever changes his mind loses out. The is a repetition. The Gemara explains. Says the Gemara he doesn't say that they changed to each other. For example, they changed their mind on working. It says they sort of tricked each other or they deceived each other. What's going on here? The answer will have a number of explanations on Mishnah. Explanation number one. The workers, not the owner, not the employer, but the employees. What do you mean? What happened? What's the case? Normally, Balabais has an employee who, let's say, is the manager of the company, and he tells his manager, "I need some more. We need more workers for today for the job. Hire me more workers." And then he went and he deceived them. What happened here exactly? And all that they can have is kindness. What's the case? Hey, Balabais said, "I'll pay $4 for zuzim a day." And he went to these employees. He said, "Look, I'm looking for more employees." This manager of the company said, "We're going to pay $3 a day, 3 zuzim a day." How can I have kindness? So with a couple, he told them, "I'm paying you 3 zuzim a day," and they accepted. What's the difference? What the balabais told the manager? The manager is trying to help the balabais out. He's saving some money. What kindness can they possibly have? The Gemara later on will say, yes, they do have kindness because if the balabais is so generous, why did you have to be so skimpy on his cheshbon? But right now the Gemara is saying, what kindness do you have? And he the balabais, but the balabais said to him, give them 3 zuzim a day. And he told them, I'm giving you 4, or so he lied to them. He said, I'll pay more. And then at the end of the day, what happened there? What do you mean you don't have kindness? He said, look, you're working for me, and I'm gonna pay you 4 a day. So who cares what Balabas said? You got to pay 4 a day. They have more than just kindness. They can take the Torah. You promise us 4 zuzim a day. We want 4 zuzim a day. It's not limited today. Too bad. You can only the Balabas give you 3. You got to pay the extra zuz because you promised that. The Tanya if I hired workers to work in my field, and then when I took them into my friend's field and they worked over there. So Noisy was Chadim Mishon, have to pay the full amount. And then the Chayzer, and then he goes back to that friend's field, but doesn't get the full amount. He gets whichever is less. Remember, if you go to somebody without permission, you pay. The Yitzia is less than the Shevach, or the Shevach less than the Yitzia. But not he only the Balabais only has to pay the benefit. He doesn't have to pay what, because he's a little bit of a profit involved. He doesn't have to pay the profit. He doesn't have to pay the benefit. So it's more than tarumas. If he promised them more, he has to pay. He says, he said to him, look, I'm going to give you for the day, like the Balabais said. But the Balabais never said that. The Balabais said, I'm only paying 3 zuzim a day. So because it said a Balabais, they only have kindness. The Gemara said, what do you mean? Let us see what is the average wage. If the average wage is 4 zuzim, then the Balabos has no choice but to give 4 zuzim. Why? Because we just learned if you walk into somebody else's field without permission, you have to pay the benefit. And if the normal wage is 4 zuzim, then that's the benefit. The benefit is 4 zuzim because that's what they did. That's what you would have hired anybody on your own. So the Balabais, even though he told the manager, pay 3 zuzim a day. But if the going rate is 4 zuzim a day, and even though they came in without permission, he has to pay Mashahenu, or the 4 zuzim a day. So why they have more than just kindness? They're entitled to get 4. Not us. The and if the going rate is 3, then all you got is 3. There's no kindness. So what do you mean to have kindness? Either they're entitled to more money, We're not, and there's no tinus. If they're not entitled to more, no can they have tinus. So if the going rate is 3, even though he told them for what he said, the way the Balabai said, the Balabai only gave like the going rate. So that's the going rate. What can tinus can have? The Ika the Mega Baba, the Ika the Mizgabit. Some people pay 4, some people pay 3. And they're tiny, they have a tiner. Okay, you can't argue that you were entitled to 4 when the boss only said 3, and that's a going rate as well. The tiny is, if we would have known that we only get 3, we would have looked for another employer who gives 4, because there are some people that pay more. So that's a tiny. It's not a financial claim, it's a tiny be a mensch. If he wouldn't have told us 4, we'd have looked for somebody else to work for to get 4. So they have tinus. That's one way. Or we can say it's not the worker, the balabai is a skin. That we're talking about the balabayis, and in other words, the worker, this worker has his own fields. So why is he working for somebody else? Because he only works if there's a premium. He's a very skilled operator, and if he gets the going wage, he'll work for himself. Or he'll work for somebody else, but he gets a bit of extra. And now the balabayis hide him, and off the armor, so not because you told me 4. Even though the going rate might be 3. The going rate might be 3 to go back. The going rate might be 3. But you told me 4. That's the only reason why I accepted it. You're paying me a premium. There's no reason it would have been embarrassing. There's no reason for me to go ahead and look for a job. And therefore, I would have accepted the job of I would have accepted the job. Therefore, but he only has tinies because the going rate is 3. We're talking about, not talking about. So the second answer is that the worker, is actually a balbos in his own right. He has his own fields, but you told him, by the 4. But the way the balbos says, according to the boss only gave 3. So and the going rate is 3. Because the going rate is 3. So what kind of, okay? He can't have a financial claim, but what is his tinus? His tinus. I don't work for 3. I don't work for the going rate. Because I'm about both of my own right. The only reason why I work is because I feel get some extra over and above. Or you buy say, we're talking about actual workers who were deceived. The Amrele, they say, okay, the going rate is 3. Going back to the going rate is 3. So your question is the going rate is 3, and you said I'll pay you like Balbus said 4, like Balbus said, the Balbus only said 3, and the going rate is 3. What kind is going to have? Because the Amrele said to him, because you gave us more than the going rate, we put an extra effort. We worked harder because we were getting paid 25% more than the going rate, right? So there's the basic wage, and you gave us a better, you exceeded that. So we thought we'll put a bit more effort in. But so let us see if the taka put in more effort, they put in more work, they should get paid more. Let's see what kind of work it is. We're talking about Berivka. We're talking about they made some kind of ridge. Their job is to make a ridge around the field, so we cannot really determine whether they actually did any better work, superior work, and they're entitled to more money or not. The Gemara, I mean, you can see the ridge they built, how they built. Was it even? Was it ragged, whatever, rugged? The Molimaya suddenly rained and full up with water. You can't say anything. The we don't know. So all they have is kindness. Can't prove one way or another. Or you by say, or we can say, the Balabas said 4. So what? The Balabas said 4. The manager went and told them 3. So they can't ask for more than 3, but they have tinies. What's a tiny?
So the manager pockets the extra.
Not pocket, no. He wants to help. He wants to prove himself about boss. He's saving the business money, so he'll get a bonus. Exactly. No, but I'm a little bit plus a 3. The company said so. A couple of tinies can they have? They accepted it. So I'm like, let's look how the don't you believe in this pasuk that Shlomo said that you should not deny the generosity of the balabas to the workers? If the balabas is prepared to give 4, why are you such a tight one? Somebody else's cheshbon, it's not even your money. So they have that kindness, so they're going to have kindness. Says the Gemara, Pshita, there's no question. Omar lay balabais betlosa the balabas. I'll pay for find me workers for 3 zuzim a day. And he went ahead and he said 4 zuzim. But lay. And they said to him, the potential employee, the pilot, they said to this manager, okay, we'll work the way the balabai says. Now, they don't know what the balabai said, but the balabai said 3, and the manager said 4. They didn't think the balabas is giving less. They don't say, oh, we don't want it 4, we want less. That's not what they meant at all. They meant that we want the higher rate, whatever the higher rate is. And even though they use the word like the Balabai said, they're just trying to say that the Balabai is going to pay us. They're not trying in any way to diminish the amount of money, which indeed will do on with that. So in this case over here, what we said before. If he says I'm going to pay you, then he has to pay them for. And if it's a balabai, the balabai is, then they have kindness to him. Okay. What happened? He said balabai said pay them for. He said 3. They said commercial balabayis, and they said the way the balabayis said. What do they mean with these words? Did they mean to say we trust that that's what balabayis said, so they accepted 3, or they're saying that we don't trust you, so we want what the balabayis really said? We're sure the balabayis maybe said more. We'll take what the balabayis said. At the Buddha today, because somebody relied whatever he said. The Amri Lei Mehamedlan, whatever he said that the Balabas said to him, we trust. The Hocha Balabais, therefore they're only entitled to 3. At the Buddha, the Balabais, because some they're saying no. Whatever the Balabas really says, the Balabas said more, we'll take what the Balabas said. They don't really trust the manager that he's giving them the full amount. They think the Balabas is being more generous. So Toshma, we're going to bring an eye from the question of when a Shliach says, this is what the Meshaleach said to me. And they said, we want what the Meshaleach said. What does that mean? The meaning saying is, we don't really trust you, so we want to know whatever the Meshaleach really said, that's what we're relying on. Or they're saying, we're saying to Shliach, okay, we trust what you're saying is what the Meshaleach said, so whatever you said is good enough. What do they mean? So we'll bring an eye from Get, which is totally related, but the same principle. Come here. A woman says to a guy, I want you to bring me a get. In other words, go to my husband, tell the husband I moved over here, and be the Shliach Lahalacha. Go and bring me the get.
So she's making him the shliach for the husband.
She can't. So therefore, he said, "Do me a favor. Go to the husband, tell him, and the husband then will give you the get. He'll make you the shliach halacha." Very important point. The husband's going to make you the shliach halacha. But what happened was, he went to the husband and said, "V'ishtecha omra his kabbaliti." The wife said, "I should make sure kabbalah," which means the moment he receives it, she is divorced. So he said kabbalah. What did the husband say? "V'hoimer heilech kemosh amra." Take the get, as she said. So what happens in this case? We don't know. Do we say that
is the time it takes him to get back to her?
No, we'll see big enough for him. The question when he said what my wife said to me, whatever she said, if she said Kabbalah, become a Kabbalah, is that what he's saying? Or he's saying, I believe you that's what my wife said. So I believe you that you be Kabbalah. Not only isn't he a shliach lekabbalah, because the wife never made a shliach kabbalah, so he can't be shliach kabbalah. He can't be shliach halach either. Why? Because the husband said, "I believe you like that. Whatever my wife said." Yeah. I believe you that what you're saying shliach halach is what my wife said. So in other words, you're not a shliach kabbalah, but I'm not making shliach halach. My wife made a shliach halach, but she can't make a shliach halach.
So the whole thing is based on a false premise.
Look at this. He says, your wife says shliach kabbalah. I believe you. That's what my wife said. But he gives her as a shliach kabbalah. But the husband can't make him a shliach kabbalah, only the wife. But the wife never made a shliach kabbalah. Or the husband can make him a shliach halacha. But the husband is saying, I'm not making shliach halacha because my wife said shliach kabbalah. So no, what are we doing here? We're relying implicitly on the words of the shliach. I feel like the what does he close from there? When the husband says whatever my wife said, he doesn't think the wife said something different. He's saying, I believe you. That's what it is. These are the because if you're going to say that he's saying, I believe whatever my wife really said, then let it be divorced when the get comes to his hand, to her hand. No right me whatsoever. Why not? He said, no one will be a raya, it'll be the other way around. Be the other way around. I want. The wife said he's Kabbalah Giti. The wife Taka said, be Kabbalah, which is her right to point to the Kabbalah. And he tells the husband, be Kabbalah Giti, and she tells when the wife said, make me Shlich Leilach. Then whatever the outcome is, we'll learn one way or another. And goes as follows. And the husband says, hey, look to my Shamra. Do what she says. Now, what did she actually said? She actually said, be a Kabbalah. He tells the husband, she said, be a halacha. Right? Halacha means that he has to bring it, deliver it to her hand before she's divorced. Kabbalah means the moment he receives it, she is divorced. Now, the husband said, do it what she said. So let's see what the outcome is, and then we'll prove one way or another. Either we rely completely on the wife, we ignore what the shliach said, or we rely implicitly on the shliach, whatever he said is what the wife said. And it follows. These are the two possibilities. We should get the she's only divorced when the get arrives in her hand, which means what? That he's a shlich lahilacha, which means that the husband that relies on the shliach that the shliach said. The wife said, not what the wife really said. So the husband, if it made him a shlich halacha, the wife can't. Okay, then you have a raya that you rely on the shlich. Sorry, we should get liyadoi. If you would have told me as soon as the get arrives in the shliach's hand, she's divorced, which means that he's a shlich kabbalah, right? As soon as he gets the shliach's hand, she's divorced. That means he's acting on her behalf. That means he's not really relying on him, what she said. He's just saying whatever she really said, that's what should happen. Okay, then then you bring a right from here that we rely not on what the shliach says, but what the shliach actually did say. Or Inami, if he would have said, Mishigia get liyadom, if he would have said, look, it's not a get until she actually receives it. In other words, he is really a shlich halacha. Then what are you going to say? That when the husband said whatever the wife said, means he trusts the shlich. That's what the wife said, that you should be a shlich halacha. So he made him a shlich halacha. So then you can rule from here, glean from here that we rely on the shlich implicitly. But this case here is all the way around, right? The wife said, be a shlich. The wife said, be a shlich l'kabbalah. He said that the wife said, be a shlich halacha. So when he said, sorry, the other way around. The wife said, be a shlich halacha. He asked the husband to deliver it to me. And he said, the wife is shlich kabbalah. You know what he's doing over here? He's saying, I'm too lazy. Shlich kabbalah means that he doesn't have to travel all the way there. The moment he got in his hand, she's divorced. So he said, look, I'm not interested in being shlich halacha. This is he's canceling the shlichus. There's no raya, nothing to do with relying on him or not. He's saying, look, I don't want to be shliach. I have nothing to do to travel over. I want to be shliach. But the husband can't make him a shliach kabbalah, even if the husband wants to. And even if he rely, that's what the wife said. But the wife didn't make him a shliach kabbalah. So the husband can't make it. So therefore, there's no shlichus here. Hashem should the he completely canceled the shlichus. The amalei shliach kabbalah havina. What are you saying here? I'm prepared to be a shliach kabbalah. But I don't be shlich halacha. So therefore, he canceled the shlichus because she really told him be a shlich halacha. So even if you're lying that he's relying on the wife, the husband should make shlich halacha. But when he came to the husband and says, "I want to be a shlich kabbalah," what he's saying is, "You can make shlich halacha, but I'm not going. I'm not interested. That's not the kind of shlich I'm interested in becoming. I'm not trying to travel for another year." Or whatever it is, so I want to be Shlich Kabbalah. But nobody made him a Shlich Kabbalah. The only one who can make him is the wife, but the wife never designated him to be a Shlich Kabbalah. So that's the problem there. No, because who made him a Shliach? The whole get just falls apart. Exactly. Exactly. So that's, yeah, exactly. The only one who can make him a Shlich Halach is the husband. But the husband said, I'm making you Shlich Kabbalah, which he can't do. But he thought that's what the wife said.
Listen, if you divert from the
shlichus. Exactly. You might say, or going back to the original question, what does it mean that women cheated each other? Oh, it depends. It depends what happened here. It's the only time it's awkward is that he completely undermines the shlichus is if she appointed him to be a shlich lelocha and he says shlich kabbalah. He said, no, that's something else. Shlich kabbalah. But the other way around, if she said, I want you to be shlich kabbalah, and he says, I want to be shlich lelocha, which means I'm happy to travel, then we said, you can have two possible outcomes, depending which way it is. We have no raya one way or another. We don't conclude. But getting back to the original question, what's the mission of umnin shehitu zeh? It's talking about the employee changes mind or employee changes mind, and we use the word hitu, even though it's not the common word to use. That's what we're using here. The time we learned, if somebody hires an employee, hitu is balabayis, he hires workers and they trick the balabas. So the balabas trick them. Ain lehen, they don't have ella tarumas. They only have tiny. But look, but I says we'll see. So here we see clearly we're talking about that the what do you call it? That the employee changes mind to the employer, employee to the employee. Now we're going to see there's different stages. If they actually went to work already, they actually started the work already, and depends if you're a contractor or not, or you just talked, you negotiated the night before, you didn't do anything yet, but and then you change your mind before you decided. So it says here, but each one says, what, I'm not going to wait for you. Find somebody else. Well, the owner says, get another job. I don't want you tomorrow to work for me. If I met Ramodi, when do we say that he can change his mind? And all you have is tinus shalaholchu. They didn't yet go to the job. They didn't go to the job yet, so they didn't yet commit themselves. Aval holchu, if they already traveled to the job. Chamorim, this is what happened. The Chamarim went to the job to pick up the freight, right? So they already went, they started their work, or they're about to start their work, but the freight didn't arrive. Or Poilin Umatu Sadik Shilacha. The pilot was supposed to work, irrigate the field, what they supposed to do. The father or plow the field, and they found the field is soaking wet. Can't do anything. Noisin Lehen's Chadar Mishlam has to pay them a full day's wage because they already committed themselves, and now and they went to the job. It's not therefore, but you don't pay them for a full day job of hard work. Let's say he was afraid. There's a big difference if you have to travel point A to point B empty with nothing in there, or you have to travel with a donkey laden with bundles and packages. So we pay him the lesser amount. We still got to pay him full day work. Or a guy who works, full day, or a guy who, let's say, does work for you, but in a very light way, and doesn't, say guard or something. So you have to pay them, but a dominant amount. When do we say this? When do we say this? Before we're talking about an employee for the day. Now we're talking about a contractor. So when do we say that all you have is kindness to each other the night before you, whatever it is, only and start the work? But if they started the work, then it's different than the case before. By a worker, you pay for the day. We said, look, he came to the work, but there's no work for them. You have to pay them a full day's wage, but a lesser amount. When it comes to a contractor, you have to pay him completely whatever he did. If he already started the work, whatever he did, you have to pay him.
You're paying by the job.
But you didn't finish the job. You did 25% of the job. You got to pay him 25%. You assess how much they did, and that's, for example, Ketzah. Kiblu kama liktza b'shnei slime. To harvest the field, you'll pay him 2 slime. You harvested half, and the other half he didn't, and then you fired him. Or beged le'ereg b'shnei slime, to weave a beged for 2 slime. You give it half a job. And what? You have to pay him whatever he did. What happens? What happens? Let's say there's 4 dinim to a seller. You promised the guy for the full job 8 dinim, right? 2 slime, 8 dinim. He did half a job, but now it costs you to do to find a worker to do this. You got to fight with this guy. Say fight to cost you the balabas to hire a guy to do the balance of the job, not another seller, but a seller and a half. Can he deduct that from the contractor because the whole job should be 2 slime? He fired the guy after doing a half a job. Can he say, I'm not paying you half the wage because I need to pay 1.5, for the rest of the day? He nevertheless has to pay them for the work that they did. Doesn't matter that it cost them more to find somebody else. Or you can let them finish the work, even though you hate them. You want to save yourself some money. Let them finish the job and pay them exactly what you made out. The seller, and if let's say cost enough to the rest of the job, nice seller, then they get the full seller. But Abdoisa says that Shami Lehena Osid says no, you do take into account that whoever changed their mind loses. No, the Tanakama says I don't care who changed their mind. You have to pay what they did. So even if the employee decided, the contractor walked off the job, you still pay him whatever work he did. It costs you a lot more to find someone to finish the job. You cannot turn to them and say, I'm going to deduct from your wage because it's your fault. You walked away, you middle. No, you have to pay them for what they did. Rabbi disagrees. Rabbi says that if they walked off the job and 2 slime for the whole job, and they did half a day's job, which is a seller, but it'll cost you 1.5 sellers to complete the job, you deduct it from them. You work out exactly how much more the future will cost. If it will cost you 1.5 slime, then you give them a shekel, which is 2. Actually, 1.5 slime, you give them 2 dinim, which is a half a seller. Or they don't like it, you let them finish the job. You don't like it, don't walk off the job. Finish the job, you give you a full wage. They did a sell with the work, give a seller. When are we talking about if there's no loss here? Let's say if they cause you a loss, let's say you can't find workers straight away, and as a result of that, you're incurring a loss. Then you can go ahead and find workers and pay an exorbitant amount, and you deduct it from them. In fact, even for the first, even if it ends up being more than what you owe them, let's say a seller of work, but it'll cost you an extra 1.5 sellers to hire a worker for the rest of the day, you could deduct it from them. And we'll see later in the Gemara how much how high can you go, and you can charge them. They're like a mazik. Or you can trick them. How you trick them? You know what? I said you have another sell outstanding. Boy, with lush time, I'll pay for the rest of the day another 2 slime. Finish the job. And then when it comes to the end of the day, they want to collect. He said, too bad, I'm only giving 1 seller. That's what we made up. How much more can you go? 40 or 50 zuz. That's 4 zuzes to a seller. You can charge them a fortune. We'll see more later if there's actually a cap. When are we saying all this that you can charge them all this money? You can't find workers, nothing else available. If you can find other workers to do the rest of the job, he says, save us elu, and they say, look, you can find another worker to finish the job. Then all you have is time to them. Why are you quitting in the middle? But if it's easy to find other workers to finish the job in the same amount, okay, that's all you have is time. You pay, they say you pay the full wage. So the Gemara, we learned before the price before. We said before. Remember, but the workers they walk away. You got to pay them a full wage. No, for that walk away, they came. The freight wasn't there or whatever it is. You got to pay them full wage, but the lesser amount. But so Rav said, Chavivi, my uncle, which is Rav Chia, he said, if I would have been the owner, the employer, bottle, I would only pay them the lesser amount. But you can say pay the. He thought they meant pay the full wage, even though they didn't have to schlep any freight because there wasn't any. Well, Allah told him, I said, "What's the problem?" It says in the price. The price tag said you don't pay a full wage; you pay the lesser wage for being, moving a donkey with nothing on it. You can't compare. They didn't have a chance to finish the brisa before he made his comment. Yeah, exactly. You can have another say. They didn't finish. This is what he said. If I would have been the employer, I wouldn't pay them at all. I wouldn't pay him a cent because the there's no freight there. There's nothing for them to do. Because he bought a kasha, the price clears that you do pay them. It depends. If they saw the land the previous night, for example, the land is now soaking wet because it rained last night. If they saw the land last night, they would have known that one rain, and they know it rains outside. They know one rain would ruin the land. So it's their own problem. Why did you go to the land? You know that there's been no work for you because you saw the land. If you had no idea, you had no idea what the land condition was like, even though it rained, you thought that the land might be, can still work. Then it's not your fault. Then you get paid. If you hire workers to make you a ridge around the place, but you can't work because it's full of water. So if you saw the land yesterday and you saw it rain and you should have known that there's nothing to come, why'd you come for? Then say the problem was their fault. But if he didn't, then say the balabais. But if he didn't see the land before, then we say the balabais, you lose out because you should have told them don't come. The vote is like Rashi said, you should have told them not to come because there's nothing to work with.
Assumption that agreement was made the night before.
We're talking about I negotiate, I hired you.
At the time of hiring.
There was no at the time of hiring, they didn't see the land. They never said, I came to your house and I want you to come to my field to do the work. Okay, 2 days work. And then it rained at night. He should have told them, guys, don't come. In the morning, he should have sent a message straight away, don't come because my land is ruined, whatever. So it's his fault. It's true. But the point they didn't start to work yet. They didn't start. There was no kinyan yet. There was nothing. There's a machlekes if they made a kinyan. What happens? We're saying walking to work, or actually walking to work for a poil, or for a kablan starting the work is considered review work. What happens? You made a kinyan without walking to work anything else. We signed a contract, whatever it is. What happens then? Then there's a big machlekes. Okay. If I hired you, let's say to irrigate my field, and then that rains, so there's no thing to do. Then say to the Poilim, we say it's their mazel, the bad mazel. It's nobody's fault, the Poilim lose out. Also, not if a river came and flooded, and then say the Balabais. If the river flooded and filled all the irrigation, nothing for them to dig because it was all full, then the Balabais lose out. And the Yovla can pay a bottle, but he has to pay them something because he hired them. But the worker doesn't do any work. He doesn't do any work. Rabbi says, "Hi, my dog, go to the dabla. He hired them. Let's say they were digging and water should come in, and suddenly the river dried up, the dry riverbed in the middle of the day. Came very hot, the sun, and suddenly there's a water stop. Ela over the pasuk. If let's say this is uncommon, then we say play the pilot. This must be bad mazel. Mazel, the bad mazel good. Over the pasuk, if it's common for it to happen, then ibnei masa. If they are locals they should have known that this is happens often, and they should have known
a low tide in the river.
exactly every day. So they should have known that their work would probably wouldn't end the whole day. So they accepted. They took the risk. Say the problem. They're not locals. They have no idea how the things work here. They say the balabayis. There's a loss of balabayis. There's one within. I hired somebody to work, but he finished faster than I hired him day's work. I thought that's how long it'll take. You finish in the middle of the day. You have other work, but it's lighter than this. You have a right to say to him, I'm paying you a full day's job. I'm going to pay, I need you to do something else. Or you know the kavase, mafklud. Or even if it's similar to work, not harder, but not easier. You have a right to do that. But kosher, if harder work, like mafklud. But harder work, you have no right to ask him to do because you hired him for this kind of a job, but a very menial other job you cannot do. You pay the full amount of money, the full wage. When you promise $100 for the day, even though he finished after half the day, you got to pay him the full wage. If you give him a lesser job, why are you paying a full day? Pay him like a poil who didn't do work the second day. He called my Rav. Rav is talking about a case. The people in Mechuzah, interesting. If they don't work part of the time, the body become weaker. They need to be energetic. So therefore, the evil of the Choshi, they get weaker. So you have to keep them employed, and therefore you pay them. Okay, we'll continue tomorrow.